You guys have any questions about this? What is this right here? This is a stifle, right? So it's a trochlear ridge. Medial is a mountain. Alright, so medial trochlear ridge of the femur. Okay. Condyles right here. Intercondylar eminence. This bone is the femur, right? Which makes this one this little guy. Okay. And we had a couple websites that are useful for review of radiographic anatomy. Any questions on the anatomy stuff before we move on? Okay. So we're going to talk about what osteoarthritis looks like on a radiograph next. Now this chart here, I put in here because it's from Stick. It's really useful to describe the things I'm going to show you in pictures in a minute. I'm going to let you read through this. I don't need to read that to you, but it is a better description of what I'm going to show you here than I'm writing on the slide. So it's useful to read through that so you can understand what the process actually is. So, what joint are we looking at here? In general, just like big picture, not individual. Right? Tarsus, yeah. Good. Okay, so now that I've said that, what's this big joint over here? Tarsocrural, also known as the, what did I call it last time? What bone is this? Tibio-tarsal. If you ever forget the name of joints, the best thing to do is think about what bone is on either side and kind of squish the names together, and it'll at least get you on the pathway to figuring out what it is. So this whole thing is the tarsus, right? So here's the tibio-tarsal. Okay, so this is the large motion joint, right? This is the one that gets like a big water balloon if it goes up fluids, it's where your box bottom would be. What joint is this right here? Proximal intertarsal, good. Bunch of tarsal stuff, right? So if there's stuff in the middle, it's often called the interphalangeal joint intertarsal. Okay? And which makes this guy the distal intertarsal. And this guy here? Tarsometastarsal. There we go. Okay. So we got some arrows pointing to stuff. Now there are a few things that you're going to see when you see osteoarthritis in a horse, ranging from mild little subtle stuff to really big changes. We'll start with the picture on the right here. Do you notice anything here? I'll tell you, there is a little abnormality here. This is my subtle. Okay, so what's that? No fractures. We're talking about arthritis. Okay. I guess first of all, before I start with the abnormal, normally if you get a nice straight shot through the joint, you should see a nice cartilage, space, which is a lucency here. So lucency right there, nice crisp, clean line, right? Okay, one right here. Now have a look at this tarsometastarsal joint. Yeah, there's lots of that space a little bit right here. Okay. Another thing to see is, you see how this area is really radiopaque, kind of more so than the rest of the areas. That's sclerosis. That's fine. So sclerosis right here, just a little bit more radiopaque than we expect it to be. Let's see if that's right. Yep. So narrow joint space, a little bit right there, radiopacity, which is the sclerosis. Now subchondral lysis, kind of this stuff right here, right? So we've got lysis. Osteoarthritis, you see lysis and you see proliferation almost kind of together. So you see there's some stuff here that looks like it's proliferating, but also some areas that look more lytic than you would expect them to be. This is normal, right? So nice, crisp, clean, good joint space, very crisp. That obviously does not look like this, and I've got areas that are more sclerotic and areas that are more lytic. Also, I don't have a nice visible joint space here, right? I have like joint space here, and then my joint space is almost kind of filling in here, even though there's lysis also. Osteophyte is what we call a bone spur. So see this little hook right there? So bone spur, osteophyte. Remember how I talked about arthritis is painful when it moves, when the joint moves. So what it tries to do is fuse that joint together very, very non-scientific term. So what it's trying to do is build bone to lock that joint together so it doesn't move. That's what the osteophyte is, it tries to do that. Common question from clients when you show them a radiograph and you say, here's the osteophyte, it's arthritis, they say, oh, can you do a surgery and take that off? No, because that's not the problem, it's a symptom of the arthritis, right? If I knock that off, first of all, it won't do anything. Second of all, it'll come right back. So no, that's, they see that thing, they think that's the problem, but it's not the problem, it's the cause of what's going on. I think I talked about that. Okay, so here's another one. Okay, so we've got a similar kind of view here we're looking at. So normal joint space up here, normal joint space here. Probably some sclerosis right here, right? Maybe a little loss of joint space here, but what's going on here? Do I have my nice, crisp, clean edges? Let's go back. Does it look like this sort of deal right here, where a nice, blocky, crisp? What's happening here? Yeah, osteoarthritis, right? So it's like I'm building bone, and it's almost curving over and surrounding that joint space, which is which joint space? Distal and intertarsal. So what would you say if you saw this on Navli? Osteoarthritis of the which joint? Yeah, no shock, right? So yeah, or degenerative joint disease, if that's an option they give you, it's the same. So yep, and clinically I might say, yeah, I wonder if this is affected too, but obviously this is the big problem, right?
And W, isn't those radiolucencies there and those bones?
Like here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably all the process of the lysis plus sclerosis that goes with sclerosis that goes on together. Often you'll see a little bit, it's not all sclerotic in bone. It's like, just looks kind of lumpy. So the stifle's a little bit different than the way a lot of other joints would look when they have arthritis. The stifle is really subtle. Let's see if I have that. No. So what I'm showing you on all these pictures is basically an osteophyte, or technically it's an enthesiophyte here because this is within a ligament. But you see how this is pointy? Right here, kind of pointy. Right there. It's almost like a little bone spur curving up from that tibial plateau. All right, so that is arthritis in the stifle. You're not going to see the big proliferative, moth-eaten looking stuff. Remember the ring bone I showed you? Okay. That's the way it is in a lot of joints. Stifle's going to look like this because it's such a big space. Really what you're going to see is flattening of the condyle right here, extension of the tibial plateau, and like a little enthesiophyte that comes up here. So don't forget that stifle arthritis is subtle. Looks like this.
On the previous picture you had, in the middle at the little point, was that one too? Right there.
Right here?
Yeah.
No, this is an intracondylar. This thing right here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this just. It's this thing right here. Just sometimes you can get an angle where it looks even more prominent just by the way you angle the generator. Question?
I just missed this slide.
So,
Could you just repeat it real fast? I just missed
about
it.
this? Sure.
Sorry.
So this is what arthritis is going to look like in the stifle. It's not going to look the same as the hock or the, down in the phalanges where you have the ring bone, the proliferative bone.
Okay.
Stifle arthritis is subtle, so you're going to get this point up here from the medial tibial plateau.
Okay.
Okay, so right there, right here on this side. The other thing you'll get is a flattening of the condyle right here. Sometimes if you're really, really advanced, you can have a less joint space right here, and the bone gets closer to each other because you don't have the cartilage pad. But main things I would have you look for is what the arrow's pointing to, that little poke off there.
Thank you.
Okay, so back to the hock, right? When we're past all the stuff I showed you before.
So sorry. So you said three things, right? I said
For the stifle?
flattening of the condyle,
Uh-huh.
and then the point on the medial plateau, and you said something else?
Loss of joint space.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
that's really advanced stuff. So once we're past the bone spur stage and the little bit of loss of joint space and sclerosis stage, we may end up like this. Okay. Where are your joints? You see them? No. This is not just bad radiographic angle. This is there's nothing left there. So, I mean, your proximal is still here. I don't know, that might not even be normal either, but distal and TMT, completely obliterated, right? So what this is ankylosis. Let me get back to you in 2 seconds. You're gonna have 2 words. I'll introduce arthrodesis in a little bit, but ankylosis, okay? These are words, ankylosis and arthrodesis, I'm gonna want you to know and understand the difference between them. So we'll start with ankylosis here. So ankylosis is basically when the body successfully fuses that joint together. So those joints are gone, right? So this is a natural ankylosis process. There's also a procedure that we can do called facilitated ankylosis that I'll come to in a minute, which means I do something to make the body turn into that. But ankylosis is just the joint is fused. I haven't put any like metal in there, there's no plates, no screws, it just has gone, right? Either happens naturally or it happens because we've done something to it to facilitate it. Does that make sense? Question?
I was gonna ask, is that kind of like what Boomer has, the front horse out there?
I don't even know who Boomer is.
Okay.
Do you know what Boomer's?
Well, he has really bad arthritis and like it's, when you look at his, on the left side, his left, like, I'll,
We'll talk later.
later,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know enough about Will there be credit? No, there won't be credit. I mean, credit I usually think of as like fractured stuff in there, bits of bone, other bits of bone. I don't usually think about that as an arthritis thing. You can do some activations and stuff like that, but I don't think that is generally remembered. Will be better be painful. So if they've completely fused and all the cartilage is gone and really they just turn to one big block of bone, they can become pain-free by themselves if they've successfully done this all the way. Now, that doesn't happen all the time. In fact, it probably happens in a minority of cases. So, you know, what often happens is that the horse is trying to do this, but he just never successfully gets to it, so he's kind of a mess. He looks close to this, but there's enough cartilage in there that he's still feeling, pain. So not always will they become pain-free with this, but if you can get rid of all the living tissue, all the cartilage and the synovial stuff and, other things that feel pain, and just become bone, then yes, they'll be pain-free. So what do we do? Thousands, yeah. Remember, this is incredibly common.
I have a question. You mentioned facilitating the ankylosing. What medical situation?
That's fine. What medical situation would you do that in?
Okay.
I'm not answering the question. So if you have a bad enough arthritis that doesn't respond to typical treatment or it comes back next, then you get to the stage where there's nothing else to do but try to make it work. So the primary goal is to stop the inflammatory cycle. So remember, it's the inflammation that makes it hurt, right? Symptomatic treatment. So symptomatic treatment, what do I mean by that? Like you have a horse that's lame, you don't use him very much, you just want to take him for a trail ride, but you want to be comfortable for that day. Some of the stuff you can do is like phenothiazine, right? Does it change the course of the disease process? No, none of this stuff does. But like stuff you can do, especially maybe in the early stages, like synovitis, before you get to a real osteoarthritis, rest, cold therapy, cold hosing, NSAIDs. None of these things are change the process of the disease. And honestly, we don't usually do these all that much because they don't really make a big difference. Phenylbutazone, of course, he's gonna look comfortable, he's gonna be a lot happier when you're riding him, but as soon as he comes off of it, he's gonna be sore again. It can work for those weekend warriors, you're just kind of maintaining a mild level of arthritis and you just need them to get through a couple harder days. So, there's a variety, many different types of treatment we use, some more invasive than others. Okay.
I didn't realize that they had it.
Oh, it started. So some stuff we can do specifically in that joint, and some stuff we do systemically. So IA means intra-articular, which means you inject something right into that joint itself, the specific arthritic joint. Systemic stuff, you can give, there's just a ton of products. You can give IM, IV, or oral. And we'll talk specifically about what those are momentarily. So intra-articular injections. The most common thing people inject joints with is a steroid combination. And that's your bread and butter hot injections that people bring in courses every week for. The most common thing. It's not the only thing you can put in there, but it's the most common thing. So the cocktail we would use is a steroid, hyaluronic acid, and amikacin as your most common antibiotic to put in there. Remember, anytime you're going into a joint, there's a potential of introducing infection, no matter how cleanly you prep it, wearing gloves and all that. I strongly recommend if you're going to do anything like this, no matter what you're putting in there, put an antibiotic in there too. Okay? Amikacin is the one that basically everybody uses. So steroid, the idea is that you're blocking inflammation. Hyaluronic acid adds to lubrication. It also has some anti-inflammatory effects that we don't quite understand. But so hyaluronic acid, high dose, one of those brands. And you're putting the needle right into, in this case, what joint? I heard it. Coffin joint. Good. Coffin bone, right? Coffin joint. Ooh, there's that collateral cartilage, that one that gets side bone, right? Okay. So typical intra-articular injection, steroid plus hyaluronic acid plus antibiotic. Now we've got several different steroids. This is one of the most common ones, depomedrol, which is methylprednisolone. Very good steroid, especially for hops. Really helps them feel better, lasts quite a long time. However, it's not as chondroprotective as some of the other steroids. Meaning, once you put it in, it can kind of start a degenerative cycle on the cartilage itself. It doesn't protect the cartilage as well as some of the other steroids do. I don't like to use this in a high motion joint, so like a knee or the stifle, coffin joint, things like that. This is great for hops. Hops can handle it. Hops are probably the biggest place I put it, but there's other places you can put it too. So depomedrol, methylprednisolone, really good one for low motion joints. Low motion joints basically can just handle a little more loss of a cartilage. Betamethasone, I really like this one. It's more chondroprotective than depomedrol. Lasts maybe a little bit less time, but still very effective. Mid-range duration, lasts a little bit less time. A little bit, well, good but more expensive, but still a really good choice. If I have a client that has a horse we want to do, try to take care of the joint as much as possible, and they have the budget to be doing betamethasone, I like this one a lot. Okay, triamcinolone is the other really common one. Doesn't last as long, but it's the most chondroprotective. So if I have a knee, if I have a stifle, that sort of thing, this is what I want to put in. Not very expensive, kind of around the same price as depomedrol. So it's a good steroid. You just don't necessarily get as long an improvement out of it. Typically when I'm doing a joint injection for a horse, I'm telling the owner I'm expecting 4 to 6 months out of improvement out of it. So we get into regular maintenance of these horses. Once they're getting hot injections, or whatever injections, usually they're going to continue getting them. It's not that you're fixing it and the horse is going to get better. You're maintaining soundness to keep the horse in work longer. So, 4 to 6 months is about what I expect. So anyone know what concern with this? Well, it's true, but for any steroid, right? Anytime I'm going in, I'm decreasing the immune response to the joints. That's why I make sure I put my hand on it. Specifically with this steroid. Laminitis. Okay. So, with any steroid, there's the potential of inducing a laminitis in a horse. And remember, that's where you get inflammation of the laminae in the foot, and they kind of pull apart, the bone rotates down. That is associated with steroid use, period. But there's some situations where there's more of a risk. Fat, overweight horses, especially ponies, something that has Cushing's disease or has had previous laminitis in the past, I'm getting kind of nervous about putting steroids in those guys' joints, especially at a high level. Triamcinolone, more than the others, has been anecdotally linked to laminitis. So the situation with this is a little bit of a protect yourself conversation that we have. So there aren't really any studies that I'm aware of. There's a variety of studies that said that they steroids and laminitis supports. But the fact that triamcinolone has been linked to this whole body dose of 18 milligrams being the safe amount that you can put in is not based in objective literature. It's based in what people have said over and over enough times that it's kind of found its way into textbooks, even though it's not based in it. So I will tell you now, I tend to stay with that 18 milligram dose, not because I know there's something proving that that's safe and anything above it's not, but because it just gets out there enough times that if you did have a complication, I think you would leave yourself a little bit open to legal issues if you went